Welcome to this podcast of the People's Pharmacy. Today we're talking with David Light, founder and CEO of Valisure. This online pharmacy puts medications through a rigorous chemical analysis before sending them to customers. The company website is valisure.com.
We spoke with David Light previously about the problem with Zantac and the potentially cancer-causing chemical that can contaminate it. Today, you will learn about some contaminants found in hand sanitizers. In particular, Valisure discovered that some products contain benzene.
David Light, welcome back to the People's Pharmacy.
Pleasure to be with you again. Thank you.
David Light, you always seem to be uncovering new disasters in the pharmaceutical industry. And although this isn't exactly the pharmaceutical industry, can you tell us what you discovered?
Sure. We're looking right now at hand sanitizers, which are technically drug products according to the FDA, and have uncovered a known human carcinogen called benzene in many of these.
Eek! Benzene is not good for us.
That's correct. It's been studied for over 120 years and linked to leukemia and a variety of problems with blood cancers.
How did you discover this problem?
So at Valisure, we analyze thousands of drug products on a regular basis that go through our own pharmacy and partners, and we're constantly adding what we're looking for. There's been a lot of problems with probable human carcinogens like NDMA in drug products. And actually, our chief scientific officer suggested not too long ago to add benzene, which honestly I thought would be a waste of time, considering that it's been banned in industry for decades. But obviously, here it is. And I'm glad we continue to expand what we're looking for.
How do you suppose benzene gets into the hand sanitizer?
So the FDA has actually talked about in their emergency guidance for COVID-19, where they relaxed the limits on a variety of impurities, including benzene, that they are aware that fuel ethanol sources, so alcohol that actually comes from the fuel industry, can be contaminated with benzene. So certainly seems likely that the alcohols themselves could have benzene in it. And in our own research, we found that the compound called carbomer that adds the gel-like property for gel hand sanitizers has also been known to actually use benzene to make it. And so benzene could also be coming from the gel. We found benzene in both liquid and gel hand sanitizers, so could easily be coming from both sources or others that we're not even aware of.
Now, I suspect a lot of our listeners are going, well, it's just hand sanitizer. I mean, I just put it on my hands. That's not a problem if I got a little benzene on my skin. Why should we be concerned?
Well, honestly, benzene is known to many of the health agencies to cause potential damage in a variety of different ways, including being absorbed through the skin. That's one of the known exposure routes. And the decades of studies that correlate benzene to cancer is through inhalation, by inhaling the benzene fumes. So there's many different ways that could be potentially exposed here that are definitely concerning for the normal use of benzene. Not to mention, if you ingest it, there's been a lot of talk from the FDA and the CDC about people that either ingest it on purpose or especially children that may accidentally ingest hand sanitizer could also be harmed through ingestion. And that's actually one of our concerns is on the side of many of these hand sanitizers certainly being labeled in ways that seem to appear to appeal to children. And that's part of the FDA guidance is to not do that.
Now, you have found that some, but not all, hand sanitizers contain this carcinogen. Is there a way for consumers to know which brands they should be avoiding?
So we did publish all of our information. There's a lot there, 260 products that we analyzed. So if you go to valisure.com and right at the top of the page there, you can get a link to our petition and the attachments that go through all of them. The worst offenders we list directly in the petition. And we also have an attachment C, that contains all the images of all the products that we've analyzed. That said, we're also certifying every single batch of a variety of different products. We have a product certification page. There's a few different products there that you can buy, that you can know that actually Valisure certified every batch, which is an important problem to underscore that we're seeing here, is that it's not just differences from company to company, it's batch to batch. Even the companies that had the worst contamination, over 8 times the emergency limits imposed by the FDA, had other batches that passed. And there's obviously companies that may have passed the 1 or 2 tests that we did, but have other batches out there that might fail.
David, you mentioned a petition to the Food and Drug Administration. What's the FDA doing about this? I mean, I would think this would be a big red flag because some of these products are violating the FDA's own standards.
Totally agree. And there's been a lot of problems over the past year that the FDA has talked about of violating the FDA's own standards on contamination like methanol. And the FDA has also imposed a import alert on hand sanitizers coming from Mexico. The FDA actually has over 230 warnings and actions on various hand sanitizer manufacturers and batches. Over 80% of those are from Mexico. And we also looked at where these hand sanitizers that we found that were contaminated with benzene are coming from. And only about 2% were coming from Mexico, 50% from China, and 35% from the United States. So the FDA is definitely taking some actions, but we certainly feel that that action needs to be a lot more broad. And they have not taken any action yet on benzene, and that's extremely concerning. You know, methanol can be very harmful for you if you swallow it, but benzene is not just harmful if you swallow it, but even just applying it on the skin could potentially absorb into your blood, where it's known to cause cancer.
David, I've been puzzled to learn that the FDA has issued what they call voluntary recalls when it comes to hand sanitizer that is contaminated with methanol. Why don't they just pull them all off the market? And shouldn't they be doing that with products that have benzene?
So absolutely, I think the FDA needs to take action on benzene in hand sanitizers. And the reality is around voluntary recalls is that's pretty much the limit of the FDA's power. So the FDA can request these voluntary recalls happen, but the FDA is actually very limited in doing more than that. And a mandatory recall is not actually possible in the United States as it is in many other countries.
So, David Light, your recommendations for people who are using hand sanitizer, or are going to be buying hand sanitizer over the next couple of weeks or months or even years, how will they find products that are safe?
So a few recommendations and actions that people can take themselves. If you go to Valisure.com, at the top of the page, you'll get a lot more information. You can at least read about it, but also actions. So we're starting today a crowdsourcing study. So if you have hand sanitizer lying around, you can send us a sample of that, and we're going to be analyzing as many as we possibly can to understand more about this whole contamination. And further than that, we have a whole product page that will hopefully grow of not just products listed, but the images of products that we are batch certifying in all sorts of different places where you can get them. And whether you're an individual or even a business, we have wholesalers that are working to batch certify hand sanitizers now as well. So hopefully a lot of actions that people can take.
And how do you spell Valisure, please?
VALISURE.com.
Okay. David Light, thank you so much for talking with us on the People's Pharmacy today.
Thanks so much for having me.
You've been listening to David Light, founder and CEO of Valisure, the pharmacy that checks.